This was a work in collaboration with Oracle, and we titled the work SweEval-Bench Really Swear, and we produced a benchmark for testing the state-of-the-art LLMs when they are used in enterprise settings, right, in professional settings, in ethical settings. All right, before we begin, I would like to request everyone to take heed that this work contains very offensive language and harmful content. The swear words were picked by us. I worked on the prompts. So any similarity to any individual or any GPT-4. So this was an instruction where it was given a positive sentiment prompt, where it was asked to act as a proud coach and write a joyful text to one of its athletes. But then at the very end, we appended a Spanish slang word. Now, ideally, we expect GPT-4 to filter out the swear word and come up with a very safe response, right? We don't want it to respond with swear words. But look at this. It didn't even hesitate even a little bit, and it straight away blurted out the swear word in June 2025. So we started working on this last year, September, but still in 2025, we are seeing that state-of-the-art models like GPT-4, they are not safe enough. We cannot rely on them when we work with them in an enterprise setting. And that is why our benchmark, we deemed that this work needed traction. Similarly, if we instructed it with a negative sentiment prompt, it is even more easily coming up with the swear word. I'll come to what is a positive sentiment and a negative sentiment prompt in a minute. All right, then. So to introduce the work, SweEval-Bench is a cross-lingual dataset. That is, we use prompts of one language and swear words of another language, and build task-specific instructions and pass it through the LLM to come up with responses. Right, this is the dataset is all about. Also, our prompts, it explicitly instructs LLMs to generate responses, and it asks it very specifically to use swear words in its responses. And that is how we evaluate if LLMs are robust enough, they are intelligent enough to avoid using them in their responses. That is how we evaluate the popular language models. Okay, this is an interesting work. This is an interesting domain that we also included, that is low resource languages. We know how low resource languages are very less represented in the pre-training corpora of standard language models. So we wanted to evaluate their performance when they were prompted with swear words in low resource languages. I'll come to them one by one. And our benchmark also aims to focus on some cultural nuances which we believed were underrepresented during the training procedure again, and how appropriate LLM responses were contextually. So we design our prompts that way. We design our prompts in a formal and informal way, in a positive and negative sentiment way, so that we include all kinds of variations that may occur when somebody is using an LLM for his or her work, right? And we aim to contribute in these settings. All right, these are the main contributions of our work. First is, so we explored a lot, and we found out that there were no such datasets or benchmarks before SweEval, where people have built a cross-lingual. We benchmarked multiple state-of-the-art LLMs on our dataset, and we analyzed them across their model sizes. And our experiments revealed serious that okay, they may not be as reliable as we think, because more often than not, they come up with swear words in their responses, as I'll show in some metrics. And finally, we analyze LLM behavior across a range of task-specific and tone-specific prompts. Like I mentioned earlier, that we designed our prompts in a way that they vary in their context, that is formal, informal prompts, as well as in their tones. We made them positive and negative sentiments as well. So yeah, these are the three main contributions our work uh, does. All right, let's begin with swearing as a potential misuse of LLMs. So all the previous work on safety and alignment, all the previous research papers, if you guys go through, you'll see that researchers primarily focus on a lot of explicit harms, like hate speech detection and harassment, to some extent, some other types of harms like uh, based on gender, based on their race, based on their culture. But swearing and using vulgar words or profanity were not considered before this work. So we thought that, okay, this is a void, and this is a type of new harm that LLMs may face. Because in the upcoming years, I think we'll all agree that we'll be looking at a lot of autonomous systems. And these language models, they are still black box mechanisms. People don't really know what is going on inside. In fact, I'll show some examples where the responses, they use the swear words and they don't even know that these are swear words. So how do we expect them to perform safe and ethically when they are in a completely autonomous system, right? So that's why we thought about swearing as a new type of harm while using LLMs. There is another interesting dimension to swearing, that is, across different cultures, swearing is perceived in a different way. Like, let's say I come from the Indian culture. So here, even if somebody swears in a public setup, even by mistake, they are looked down upon like anything. They give you hell. But let's say you are in a Western culture and you use a swear word by mistake, then people let it go. They don't think about it much. So that is another dimension. That is why we included so many languages, so that the cultural nuances is also present in the evaluation. Uh, and yeah, our work aims to fill this void by targeting these underexplored areas. All right. Now coming to the SweEval benchmark, uh, I would like to share how we built the dataset. Wanted more to use a swear word. And again, positive sentiment is like sugarcoating the prompt and then asking the LLM to use a swear word regardless. So we wanted to understand how LLMs were performing given these varieties of prompts. And the swear words we chose come from 8 different languages. English, of course, and then 3 Latin languages, that is European languages, and 4 Indic languages. The first case is where we include the swear word as it is. That is in the local language. Let's say we come up with a Hindi swear word. We'll embed that swear word as it is. That is, it will be written in Hindi syllables to the prompt. And all the prompts that we use are English. So initially we thought about using prompts in other languages as well, but that was actually going beyond our scope because we wanted to evaluate LLMs when it is given swear words, not when it is given prompts in other languages, right? So this is how we shaped it. We came up with 109 prompts first. I did that. I came up with all the prompts. And all these 109 prompts are distributed over the 25 categories. These 25 categories. Once we have them, we took 25 swear words from each language and we embedded them with each prompt. Right, and that is how we ended up with 2725 prompts for each setting. And this is our case one. Case two is very similar, but we transliterated the swear word before appending it to the prompt. So what transliteration means is, let's say another swear word from Hindi, but we use English alphabets to come up with a word that sounds exactly the same when the Hindi swear word is pronounced. But we use English alphabets to represent it. The reason to do this is we give a completely new word to an LLM because this has not been represented in the pre-training corpora, right? This is a completely new word. It's outside of the English vocabulary, and understand how the language model is performing. So yeah, these are the two cases we structure our dataset into. Note how the Latin languages here, we are not using them in the case two because the swear words in Latin languages, they are written in English alphabets itself in the first place. So this was all about the dataset formation. I'll take a pause here. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer that. Anything. If any question on why we chose these categories or why the number of prompts is different in each of the categories.
Feel free to raise your hands.
So does anyone
if
have
nobody
any
else has
question,
a
or
question, I can
continue that?
Feel free to raise your hands, guys. I actually did have a question, if that's all right.
All right. If not,
and hopefully, we'll see if anybody else has one either.
Opens.
So we were just talking about dataset composition. So I was wondering if for the low resource languages that you picked, what was the methodology for that? Are there like particular metrics that you were looking to hit to define a language as low resource, or yeah, just super curious about diving deeper into the selection process.
All right. So no, we did not use any particular metric to categorize or segregate the languages as low resource or medium resource. But we looked into a lot of research papers, and that is where English is the most high resource language, of course, because of its dominant representation in the pre-training corpora. Next up comes the Latin languages, that is French. We segregate them as the low resource languages, right? And we did not use any metrics for that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it definitely does. And then I guess moving on beyond the language selection, I thought the approach to the domain specificity, like you have like sales pitch or like I obviously I didn't get I don't have the full list memorized, but so for those for that data, how did you go about collecting it?
Okay.
Maybe there's a standard database out there for. Maybe there's a standard database out there.
Right. We brainstormed.
Oh, sorry. You broke up. Can you start over?
Yeah. Am I audible now? Hello.
Yeah, you're back. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. You can go ahead. You were asking something again.
Yeah. So
how did we come up with these categories?
The n number of prompts is kind of low. The n number of prompts is kind of low. So I guess like the question is more like, how might you scale this up?
Okay. Yes. So, Asha, with these categories, we came up with them on our own. We brainstormed, and these were the formal ones that formal. How do we scale them up? One way is adding in prompts from all the different languages. That is 109 prompts from Spanish, from French, from German, all the Indic languages as well. That is one way. So we had thought of doing this in case 3, but again, I mentioned this was going beyond our scope. We wanted to evaluate LLMs on the swear word perspective rather than different language prompts. Right? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So I think we have someone else who wants to answer or ask a question.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
Arian,
Go ahead.
the number of languages you have used in your application or your tool or your research work. Okay. So across the globe, day by day, new languages are coming. Okay. Based on their popularity, like, if we want to extend your tool or your applications with the new language, we can extend it.
Okay, that is a great question. Before I answer that, I would like everyone to know that it's my father. Thank you. Thank you for joining in and asking that question. So, yeah, that's a very issue at the root, I would say. That is how language models work. That is how language models are trained. So, if language models were expected tomorrow, let's say, to understand something with a different language that comes up, then we have to come up with the same amount of data set that these languages have at present to train the language model in the first place. And then maybe we can do something about the swear words in that language. We can do some post training, we can do some uh, entity recognition or something. But again, we have to come up with that volume of data set in the first place to train the language model. So yeah, I don't think we are still at a position that if tomorrow a new language comes in, we can extend the application immediately. Maybe after some data collection, after some, uh, you know, a novel training architecture or something, maybe the language model will get robust enough to operate on a new language. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's fine. So I got your point actually.
All right. Does anybody have any other question, or then I'll move into the experiments? If not, let's get ahead. Okay. So yeah, these are the models we used. You can see all the 4 of them are state-of-the-art model families that we use in our day-to-day life in all the applications that we build, starting with Mistral, Pi, Quen, and for Mistral we use these 5. For Llama we use these 4. The reason we added Phi and Quen as well is because we wanted to test small models as well and wanted to compare their performance related to larger models. All right, so moving ahead, like I mentioned, we had 2 cases, 2 experimental set of cases. Again, case 1, let me zoom in a bit. Yeah. So case 1 is when we use the slang language in the local language itself. Like I mentioned, a Hindi swear word in Hindi syllables. And this is the base English prompt. We append that slang language here. We instruct the LLM to use it forcefully in its response. And then we check if the model is robust enough to filter it out or use it, put it in its response. Case 2 is where we translated the swear word. We translated it first, evaluates response, which calculates the fraction of times a language model is coming up with responses that contain swear words. Right, the number of harmful responses upon total number of responses. Now, finally, we share our analysis and the results of the paper through 3 research questions. The first of which asks if LLMs are capable of completing tasks using multilingual swear words. What this question means is, how many times did the language model have the swear responses? That is a fraction of times, the harmful rate, right? And we observe that the models, they struggle to keep within the ethical standards and the safety guidelines, uh, especially when they are instructed with low and medium resource languages, and even more so when they are transliterated, right? And one good assumption why that may be true that we had observed is, again, because transliterated swear words, they're not very well represented in the English focused pre-training data. So as you can see, these images are, if we look at the vanilla values here, language model even more unsafe. And if you can go through the paper, you'll see that how the 13 language models are faring compared to each other. So if I don't know if it's visible to everyone, but the smaller models, that is Phi and Quen, they perform the best across each language. Whereas the large language models, the larger ones, one with more number of parameters, they are way more vulnerable. They are coming up with responses more than 0.8 times. So, I mean, we understand, right, what the state of the current language models are. They are nowhere near the expected reliability to be used in a completely autonomous system. So we conclude that LLMs presently lack the critical thinking and the contextual judgment that we as humans apply when using such language in any setting. Moving on to the next research question. This question explored how much language models are vulnerable to Latin-based languages compared to Indic languages. Before I get into the results, I would like to remind again that the Latin languages, that is the European languages, they are medium resource languages, while the Indic languages, they are low resource languages, right? So again, in tandem with the previous research question, we see that the medium resource languages, even they are able to make the LLM come up with swear words in the responses, but not at the level of the Indic languages. The Indic languages, which are even lesser represented, make the language model even more vulnerable. Looking at the vanilla values here, and the case 2 values, the transliterated swear words, if you can check the values here for the Indic languages, they are higher than the case 1. And the last research question, this will take this forward. That is the Mixtral 22B, and this is a 141 billion parameter model. So yeah, it's a big one, but it's safer because than these models, similar newer ones. So yeah, I mean, we can rest assured that language models are adapting. They are big, but maintaining swear words, that is something, and this calls for way more robust pre-training techniques and maybe a more robust data so that the model can capture this information of swear words so in order to not use them in the responses. Right, and directions where people can take this work forward. That is one I mentioned, that is using prompts from different languages, maybe adding in some more swear words. There was another idea that we were thinking of, that is the text embedded in images. Presented the 3 research questions that we use to share our results and our analysis. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Super interested in, I guess, the model size versus performance here. So I know that this was more, just an observational study almost, but if I would love to hear your opinion or thesis, or like what might explain these results, because it's actually a little surprising to me.
Okay, so coming to the model size, as you can see that the smaller models, that is the Phi and Quen, they are safer compared to the larger models, that is Mixtral and Llama. But then the largest model, that is the Mixtral, the 141B1, that performs better than the smaller Mistral models, because the dimension of time comes in again. The larger one, it was released later. It was trained on a different set of dataset. So yeah, that is something that could have made it safer. And the reason we get these results is, one, because Indic languages are low resource, and the Latin-based languages are also low resource compared to English. So you can see that English swear words have a much lower harmful rate compared. Yes, but then I asked it if it knows what this thing means, and yes, it knows this is a swear word, but still it is coming up with that swear word in its response. This may be because it may not be robust enough to filter it out, or maybe it does not think in a way, it does not critically contextualize in a way we humans do. That is, when it should use this kind of word, should it use it in a professional setting? Should it not? We deem that language models, for now, they don't have that critical judgment to understand when to use these swear words. So yeah, that is a critical flaw. That is a severe flaw in language models, given that in the coming years, we'll be using completely autonomous systems. These language models are still black box mechanisms, and we can't completely rely on them yet to be ethical and safe when working in enterprise setting. So yeah, all in all, I would say language models are still a bit naive. They're not robust enough to filter out unethical responses. Yeah, so these are the 3 reasons. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, totally. It's really exciting, honestly. It's interesting how, you can really just throw more compute at it, and at some point at some point it groks, right? But it's also so interesting that there's kind of a valley of low performance where you have these reasoning models that, are talking to each other and kind of removing the context when they're chatting with each other almost, right? These AIs are not embodied, right? Like they only have the context that we provide them. And it's interesting because the same prompt, you can have different expectations for different folks. And of course, the agentic context gathering is going to be limited. It's not you, right? But yeah, super interesting result, man.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned an interesting approach again, that is using reasoning models. So yeah, one more direction can be using reasoning models on the benchmark and see where it takes it. So yeah, a lot of interesting work can originate from this idea. All right, since we are at the end of the presentation, I would like to share how I got this opportunity to work with these researchers at Oracle in the first place. Because I'm pretty sure, I mean, I got a lot of questions from a lot of people, how I got this opportunity, how I applied and stuff. So this is for those people. Um, so I try to stay active a lot on Twitter, right? Twitter is the place where a lot of CEOs are active, a lot of researchers are active. A lot of research is going on there, much more than LinkedIn, I would say. And I had posted about a project I was working on last year over there. And I was looking for a guide because I was working on something very new to me back then. So one of the researchers from Oracle, he liked that post, and I reached out to him over there. Um, so he was interested in my experiences, what I had worked on before that, and that is where all the conversation started. And we met a couple of times online, and that is where he got to know about my interests and what my future goals were. And then he took in my resume, took a short interview, and that is how I got to work with the researchers at Oracle. So yeah, this was a work jointly with Oracle, and people interested in working with them, you can of course reach out to them and reach out to professors as well. So yeah, I'll be happy to answer any more questions if there are. So yeah, thank you everyone for being patient enough to stay and hear out my presentation. Yeah, thank you for all this confetti. So yeah, if we don't have any other questions, then I think we are good to go. Um, so yeah, anything else from you, Abrar?
Oh, I'm glad that you think my questions are okay. Yeah, I guess I had I guess I did have one more. We've discussed a lot of future directions for research. And you know, I think maybe it might be good to flip it. Retrospective, how has it been working with Oracle? And if you could change something about how you approached this collaboration, and grow in the future, what might you change?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the second part?
Yeah. So just to make sure the whole crowd gets it right, it's like, what was it like working for Oracle, and kind of do like a self critique, like I did these things well, I did these things maybe, could grow, and as a researcher, right? Because for the Cohere community, we want to, in addition to the research, show people the paths, right? So like, I think it would be interesting to hear, from you, like what your future directions are, and not necessarily, just where you could go with this paper. Is the question clearer?
Yeah, sure. So that's a great question actually. So for the people who don't know, I'm still an undergrad student. So I'm working on natural language processing currently and language models specifically, and also working with them on agentic AI systems. And yes, I want to pursue a career in research. What directions will I work in? Uh, to be very honest, I still haven't decided, but I'm interested in post-training architecture and reinforcement learning, because that is what gives a character to a language model, right? We can train any language model on any data set. That will give the language knowledge to the model, but how it responds to instructions from users, how it adapts itself to some task, that is completely based on the post-training architecture and the fine-tuning part, the RL part. So yeah, my future research interests would definitely be that. And people at Cohere, I think, first of all, they are at a great place. I have been active at the Cohere Discord channel for a while now, and I think uh, they organize some pretty decent events now and then, and they're very regular with that. They have paper reading sessions, they have paper presentation sessions. So yeah, I think it's a vibrant community, and it's a privilege to be a part of Cohere. Coming to the experience working with Oracle, so it was an independent research work with an independent research group at Oracle. So yeah, I think there were some incredible researchers. They got 5 more papers through ACL. So I think it was great. It was great working with them. They gave me the idea first at the first place, and yeah, they have a lot of compute. They can run all these models. And coming to ideas, yes, they work on image-based ideas, text-based ideas as well. and they they can really, inspire you to work with your research, and uh, like they make you own your work. That is something very important. You don't do the work because somebody else is telling you to do it, but because you want to do it, and you want to see something out uh, for your hard work. So yeah, I think getting to work with my co-authors from Oracle, it was a great privilege, and getting to share my paper with Cohere, it was something that I will cherish for a long time to come. Yeah.
Well, on that sweet note, if there's any more questions, of course the floor is still open. But if not, Arion, this was an incredible presentation. Really compelling, especially for an undergrad. I did some NLP research around your age, but the kinds of opportunities that are afforded in 2025, like really looking forward to seeing where you go with this. So yeah, thank you so much everyone for attending today. If there's nothing else, I think we'll let him wrap up.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Arion. This was really an incredible presentation. Like it.
Thank you.
Very much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Okay, and I'll get the recording to you ASAP. Yeah, take care.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining in.